And now to our coverage of the coronavirus pandemic in America. Tributes are being paid to former U.S. Secretary of State Collin Powell, who has died of COVID-19 complications aged 84. His family says the former top military officer died on Monday morning after being fully vaccinated. He's ranked among the topmost Americans whose lives were cut short by COVID-19. Paying tribute to the diplomat who the world will always remember, President Joe Biden called him a dear friend who embodied the highest ideals of both warrior and diplomat. Former President Bush described him as a great public servant, as well as a family man and friend who was such a favorite of presidents that he earned the Presidential Medal of Freedom twice. Mr. Bush's Vice President, Dick Cheney, saluted Collin Powell as a man who loved his country and served long and well. Former President Barack Obama described him as a man who understood what was best for his country and tried to bring his own life, career, and public statements in line with that ideal. Collin Powell's successor as Secretary of State and the first black woman in the role, Condoleezza Rice, called him a truly great man whose devotion to America was not limited to the many great things he did while in uniform or during his time spent in Washington. Collin Powell became the first African-American Secretary of State in 2001 under U.S. Republican President George W. Bush. He also sparked controversy for helping garner support for the Iraq War. According to U.S. media, Mr. Powell had previously been diagnosed with multiple myeloma, a type of blood cancer, as well as Parkinson's disease, which may have made him more susceptible to COVID symptoms. And joining me now from Washington, D.C. via Skype to discuss the passing away of General Collin Powell is an analyst and CEO and Case Consulting, Ike Ogbibili. Good to have you join us.
Morning. How are you, Precious?
I am good. Thanks for joining us. A really sad development there in the U.S. Whilst he is the former U.S. Secretary of State, he is a global figure, well respected by many, especially when it comes to international diplomacy. But he was the son of Jamaican immigrants, and then he became the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and then the first African American Assistant Secretary of State, and who received the Medal of Freedom twice. What does that say about the kind of man that he was?
Well, first of all, our condolences go out to Miss Powell, Elmer Powell, and her family, and our prayers are with them. General Collin Powell was a great guy, a man of high honor and integrity. He broke several ceilings out here in the United States. Like you just said, Jamaican immigrants born and raised in New York, in the Bronx, and a professional soldier, and then moved into politics, and he was the kind of guy he was kind of a stand-up guy, a perfect gentleman, soldier and a gentleman, America has missed a great guy, a great man at a time like this.
And you really, as much as he's revered and respected across the aisle, you really can't talk about Collin Powell without talking about the Iraq War and the testimony he gave at the UN. He argued for the invasion, but most of the testimony that he gave later was reported as false, and that he later called that an unjustified war. That was his words for the war. How did that impact on his public support?
Well, that was one of the biggest. He called it a blunt on his reputation, and I remember many years ago on Larry King's show, he actually said he regretted that particular moment. I think it was one of the biggest dent on his personality and his career. Actually, going out to United Nations and giving what he said was false information that gave the go-ahead for America to go into that Iraq war. But he bounced back from it, In 2003, I believe he left politics and went back into private life. But he picked up himself again and became more of an outspoken advocate for young people with his American Promise, which was a non-profit. And until his death, I believe he was still actively involved in speaking. And he was one of those great guys who showed signs that bipartisan politics can definitely work. He was a Republican, but he stood for America first, the real, true America first. something that America lacks today in the political arena. Great gentleman, full of honor and integrity.
And you're right that he bounced back from that, because when you check his approval rating, it was at an all-time high of 88%, and the lowest disapproval rating he ever had was 6%, which shows you that he was quite trusted and popular across the aisle, whether by Republicans, Democrats, and even independents. Why do you think that was?
It's just who he was as a person. It's the foundation of where he came from. He never forgot his roots, and then he understood what America had given to him. And as long as he was concerned, America came first. He had to give America back. He was a real soldier, a true soldier, and who actually did not want war and didn't believe in war, because he could see the damage and the degradation that war can actually bring into a nation or into people's life. But he was just one of those people that just cut across. He understood that he got a helping hand to become who he became, and as long as he was concerned, he took every platform that was given to him to help others. And it didn't matter whether you were black, white, male or female. As long as he saw potential in you, General Powell will definitely move forward to be there for you.
And I want to pick up on something you said earlier. You talked about how he was someone who could reach across the aisle, or that's something America doesn't have today. Someone who is revered across the aisle. I also remember someone like that who, Senator John McCain, who was also respected. He was largely bipartisan. Why is that so difficult to find someone? Because we know that Collin Powell was someone who was a Republican, but he endorsed Democratic candidates. He endorsed President Barack Obama. He endorsed former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. He also endorsed Joe Biden while he was running. Why is it so difficult to find someone who can cut across the aisle as Collin Powell was?
Well, they're actually there. I want to believe that there are a lot of people who actually can cut across the aisle. But the problem is that their voices have been drowned by the Trump approach to politics. The political system here and the political arena here in America is so diverse. It's like it's either you're Republican or you're Democrat or you're nothing, and all decisions are made party first instead of America first. And it's so appalling. But you saw a guy like Paul who felt like, John McCain was running against Barack Obama at that time, and he endorsed Barack Obama. And his excuse was not based on race. It was because he saw a leader who was more of a transformational leader, someone who could take America to the next level. And he felt that this is the best guy to take America to where America needs to be going to. That's why when he endorsed candidates, it wasn't based on their political affiliation. It was what he felt in his gut feeling that this is what was best for America at the time.
And I guess that's what that America First ideal was what President Barack Obama was referring to when he talked about, when in his tribute he talked about I just want to get it right. He said former President Barack Obama described him as a man who understood what was best for his country and tried to bring his own life, career, and public statement in line with that ideal. I guess he was referring to the American First ideal. But let's also look at another tribute that came from Condoleezza Rice, who took over from him. She said much of his legacy will live on in the countless number of young lives he touched. What do you think that legacy is?
Because he poured back, you see, Precious, he poured back into young people. The organization that he ran, which was called American Promise, was to pull people from all factors and all sectors in America to try and invest more in the character and the competence of young people. So he poured back into the next generation. Do you get my point? He saw that, okay, my generation has come and gone. That's what he was saying, and he was pouring back into the younger generation, and that younger generation was the way America was going. It didn't matter whether you were black, white, or male or female, and that is who Powell was. Just a great leader in every sense of the word.
Absolutely. He will be largely missed across the globe, especially in the diplomatic circles. I can't imagine how much he will be missed. Thank you so much for talking to us, Ike Ogbebele.
Thanks a lot, Precious. Thanks for having me. Have a wonderful day.